Dr. Shailendra Mani, Associate Professor of Medicine. We will be discussing acute left ventricular failure, in particular left ventricular failure as such whole. So, how to define heart failure? It is a complex clinical syndrome in which an abnormality of cardiac function and connected system is responsible for failure of the heart to move blood forward at a rate commensurate with the requirement of the metabolizing tissue. So blood is unable to pump effectively, okay, and to the main function of the heart is pumping of the blood and release the nutrients, oxygen to the metabolizing tissues. So it is hampered. What is acute left ventricular failure? It is a clinical syndrome in which the dominant feature is fluid congestion in the lung, that is pulmonary edema, rather than in the systemic circulation. If left atrial pressure rises acutely, it may cause pulmonary edema, and if rises gradually, there will be reflex pulmonary vasoconstriction. What is the incidence? It is the leading cause of death worldwide. In approximately 5.1 million persons in USA, clinically manifest as HF, and prevalence continues to rise. It is a leading cause of death world over. The lifetime risk of developing HF is 20% for Americans more or equal above 40 years of age. Acute heart failure syndromes constitute the most common indication for hospitalization in adults over the age of 65. So what is the etiology? Etiology depends on, first is loss of muscles. Most probably is a post-MI, chronic ischemia, connective tissue diseases, infections, poisons like alcohol, cobalt, doxorubicin. Second etiology is volume overload. In loss of muscles, there is heart failure with reduced ejection fraction. So, ejection fraction is less than 40%. Volume overload, it is a regurgitative wall, high output state, and ejection fraction is high. So, it is categorized as HF with high ejection fraction. Third category of etiology is pressure overload, that is systemic hypertension, outflow obstruction. In such cases, heart failure is associated with preserved ejection fraction. Restricted feeling, like pericardial diseases, restrictive cardiomyopathy, and tachyarrhythmia. Coming to pathophysiology. What is the pathophysiology? What happens at the cardiac myocytes? Several key factors play in the initiation and propagation of acute heart failure. Acute or subacute worsening of cardiac function, either systolic or diastolic. There is neurohormonal activation leading to fluid accumulation. Cardiorenal syndrome is an important syndrome resulting from complex interplay between kidney and the heart. It is not heart failure only, it is associated kidney failure. It is known as cardiorenal syndrome. Impaired vascular endothelial function, inflammation and oxidative stress, and hemodynamic factors. So we'll study one by one. Cardiac dysfunction can be either systolic, diastolic, or combined. Systolic occurs as a de novo dysfunction of previously normal heart, and diastolic combined occurs in acute worsening of non-chronic dysfunction. So in acute heart failure, there is congestion and perfusion abnormality. One of the factors is inflammation, that is oxidative stress. There is increased reactive oxygen species, nitroso-redox imbalance, elevated cytokines, TNF-alpha, interleukin-1, interleukin-6. Second abnormality is cardiorenal syndrome leading to sodium water retention, renal dysfunction. Neurohormonal activation will lead to RAS dysregulation, leading to again renal abnormalities and vascular or endothelial dysfunction. In that, there is vasoconstriction, nitroso-redox imbalance, arterial remodeling, abnormal ventricular coupling with remodeling. Ventricle dilates, its efficiency as a pumping chamber deteriorates over the time. What is cardiorenal syndrome? Heart failure perpetuates renal failure perpetuates heart failure. So it is not the heart failure alone that kills the patient. It is heart failure associated with the renal failure. Why does it occur? What is the mechanism? Because of heart failure, there is low blood flow to the kidney. Kidney requires a massive blood supply. It is a filtration organ where there is hemofiltration is occurring. Defective hemofiltration causes sodium fluid retention, RAS activation, SNS activation. SNS is sympathetic nervous system activation, inflammatory cytokine activation. There is congestion of the system, especially lungs, hypoperfusion of the tissue, and comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, vascular disease play a major role. In fact, pharmacotherapy is also sometimes problematic. Anemia, hypoxia worsens this cardiorenal syndrome. What is this nitroso-redox imbalance? It is ultimately in every inflammation there is a release of reactive oxygen species leading to increased oxidative stress, and there is NO mediated release of NO, which is a powerful reactive oxygen species, causes decreased ventricular function, decreased systolic function, decreased diastolic function, decreased renal sodium excretion. Again, endothelitis, that is decreased vascular function, decreased arterial compliance, and decreased endothelial function. So, how to classify? NYHA classification, I think everybody knows. Cardiac disease, but no limitation in ordinary physical activity, mild symptoms. Second, slight limitation with during ordinary activity. Third, significant limitation in activation due to symptoms, comfortable only at rest. And fourth is dyspnea at rest or orthopnea or PND. Second way of classifying is ACC or AHS stages of heart failure. Stage A, B, C, and D. A is high risk for heart failure, but without structural heart disease or symptoms of heart failure. So it coincides with the stage 1 of NYHA. B, structural heart disease, but without signs or symptoms of heart failure. C, structural heart disease with prior or current symptoms of heart failure. And D stage is a severe heart failure or acute pulmonary edema or cardiogenic shock. Next slide, please. It is buffering, I think. So this is second. First is NYHA, ACC, AHA. that is American College of Cardiology or American Heart Association, ABCD. And third is Phillips classification. Fourth is Forrester. Let the slides come. Sorry for the interruption. This buffer व्हायला लागले. हाँ. Let us wait for some time. Some technical problem is there. This lecture is being recorded. Since there is some problem. Okay, slides have come. Yes, this is third classification, that is Phillips classification, that is class 1, class 2, class 3 and class 4. Class 1 includes individuals with no clinical signs of heart failure, only symptoms, dyspnea, exertion, but there is no signs. Class 2 includes individuals with rales or crackles in the base lungs, S3 gallop and elevated JVP. Class 3 is individuals with frank acute pulmonary edema. Class 4 is cardiogenic shock, systolic BP less than 90 and evidence of low cardiac output like oliguria and altered mentation. Fourth classification is Forrester classification. That is, it depends on the cardiac index. What is cardiac index? Cardiac output into per square meter square or per surface area of that particular person. So in that Forrester classification, there are 4 quadrants. One is normal, second is class 2, class 3, class 4. Normal, you have got is a normal cardiac index, that is 3.5, 3 to 2.5. In that, cardiac index is normal. In class 2, you should use diuretics, vasodilators like nitroglycerin, sodium nitroprusside. Once the cardiac index falls below 2.5, there is mild hyperperfusion. Till that time, perfusion is maintained. If cardiac index falls below 2, there is hypovolemic shock, severe hypoperfusion. Severe hypoperfusion. Fluid administration, again diuretic would help, and ACE inhibitors or ARBs. Then class 4, that is comes cardiogenic shock. Normal blood pressure is there, use vasodilators. If reduced shock is there, use inotropics or vasopressors like dopamine. Okay, so this is Forrester classification, depending on cardiac index. So The next classification, that is same Forrester, but it is a clinical index. So in that you measure pulmonary capillary wedge pressure by introducing Swan-Ganz catheter at the pulmonary artery. If PCWP is less than 18 and cardiac index more than 2.2, mortality rate is only 3%. In class 2, PCWP is more than 18. Cardiac index is also more than 2.2. Then mortality rate is 9. In class 3, PCWP is less than 18 millimeter of Hg. Index is again low, 2.2. Mortality again rises 23. The highest mortality is in class 4, where PCWP is more than 18. Cardiac index is less. So myocardium is failing now. So mortality rate is very high. So these are the 4 classifications. Another categorization is, as I've already told you, systolic, diastolic, and both. In systolic, impaired contractility of left ventricle, it is associated with chamber dilatation. It is also called as HF, heart failure with reduced ejection fraction. So HFrEF. And diastolic dysfunction, there is poor ventricular filling with high, because of high LV end diastolic pressure. LV ventricular hypertrophy is a stiff, non-compliant ventricle, especially in diabetic heart. So it is also called as HF with preserved ejection fraction, HF and F. And both are present, then often coexist, particularly in patients with CAD. So again, categorization, systolic, diastolic combined, acute, chronic, acute on chronic. Acute heart failure is associated with acute MI, acute native valve failure, that is caudal rupture, endocarditis, acute myocarditis. Chronic heart failure is seen in infective endocarditis, dilated cardiomyopathy, infiltrative cardiomyopathy, hypertensive and diastolic cardiomyopathy, valvular disorders, thiamine deficiency. Acute and chronic is common in infection like viral and bacterial. General approach. History taking, general examination is important. Functional assessment by NIMHA classification, or use CLIP classification, or use Forrester. Diagnostic investigations are used, and management plan is divided into lifestyle modification, pharmacological management, device therapy, and revascularization. History taking. The patients with acute heart failure typically presents with some combination of increased congestion and less frequently decreased peripheral perfusion. In addition to disturbance in oxygenation due to pulmonary edema, renal dysfunction is a frequent manifestation of AHF and reflects the multi-system nature of this disease. The mean age of patients with AHF is mid-70s, and about half of the sex and majority are normal or elevated blood pressure. Most frequent symptoms are dyspnea on exertion, dyspnea on rest, orthopnea, PND, fatigue, confusion, cough with bloody sputum in case of acute pulmonary edema, abdominal discomfort including early satiety, bloating, anorexia, leg pain due to tense peripheral edema, sleep disturbance, PND is common. Typical presence with, we have already the lower extremity edema, pulmonary congestion, elevated or normal BP. Okay. Next. So this is the typical symptomatology of left-sided heart failure. PND, paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea, elevated pulmonary capillary wedge pressure leading to pulmonary congestion, cough, crackles, wheezes, blood stools, sputum, tachypnea. There is restlessness, anxiety, confusion. Orthopnea is common. There is tachycardia, exertional dyspnea, fatigue, oliguria. So what are the signs which are present at the time of AHF, acute heart failure? Edema, bilateral, legs, abdomen, sacral, pitting edema, pulmonary basal RAS, pleural effusion, there is elevated JVP, positive hepatojugular reflux. This reflux we have studied in clinical medicine. Press on the lower abdomen, just below right hypochondriac. After giving sustained pressure, there is a rise in JVP. Increased body weight, increased abdominal girth, normal or elevated BP. There is tachypnea, tachycardia. Less common signs are third heart sound is present, cool extremities, hypotension, narrow pulse pressure, pulsus alternans, impaired end organ function such as decreased urinary output. Physical examination we have already studied. So coming to investigation. Any patient with AHF, acute heart failure, comes to the ICU. Patient should be admitted in ICU, monitoring started, cardiac monitor, start oxygen, give head up elevated position because it will help in decreasing the dyspnea. Start oxygenation 5 to 10 liters, give opioids or a sedation, and give diuretic to reduce pulmonary congestion. Then give ARBs, ACE inhibitor or ARBs. You can use vasodilators. You can use digoxin. You can use beta blocker like ivabradine, but it doesn't help at acute heart failure. Then comes if BP is low, start vasopressors, inotropes like dobutamine, noradrenaline, dopamine. Okay, so in short, investigations. It may reveal 12-lead ECG will reveal MI, myocardial infarction, LVH, arrhythmia, ischemic heart disease. Chest X-ray is invaluable in AHF. It will show enlarged hilar vessels, ground glass appearance, reticular, shadowing of the alveolar edema, that is curly A lines, B lines, prominence of upper left vessels, septal or curly B lines, pulmonary edema. In blood investigation, you should send specific investigation like NT or pro-BNP. What is pro-BNP? Bariatric natriuretic peptide, and pro-BNP factor is increased in case of heart failure. Anti-pro-BNP is a very specific. Complete blood count, blood urea, serum electrolytes, serum creatinine, blood sugar, and TSH. What are the how biomarkers are used for diagnosis? In patients with dyspnea, measurement of BNP or NT-proBNP is useful to support the diagnosis or exclusion of HF. NT-proBNP is normal, then HF is excluded. Measurement of BNP or NT-proBNP is useful for establishing prognosis or disease severity in chronic HF. And measurement of baseline levels of natriuretic peptide biomarkers or cardiac troponin on admission to the hospital is useful to establish a prognosis in acutely decompensated HF. So chest X-ray PA view is invaluable. You can make out from this X-ray the vascular pedicle gets dilated. There is redistribution of blood flow. Pulmonary veins become prominent because of excessive blood flow, and ultimately white shadows, which gives the clue of pulmonary edema. It is also known as batwing appearance. Okay, and curly lines, B is basal lines, A is septal lines. Because of interstitial edema, uh, they are present. So this is typical normal X-ray, and blue you can make out the blue arrow shows the dilated vascular pedicle, and vascular pedicle is stretched in case of AHF. You can make out normal basal X-ray and increase vascular prominence and curly B lines. Again, normal X-ray and prominent vascular congestion at the pulmonary area. This is typical bat swing appearance in acute pulmonary edema, and there is considerable improvement after treatment with diuretics and pharmacotherapy. So any other investigation? Echocardiography is very valuable in case of heart failure. It will give you clues about regional wall abnormalities, ejection fraction, LV dimensions, LV mass, myocardial performance index. You can measure cardiac index, cardiac output, stroke volume. So it gives very invaluable information. This echo shows you interventricular septal akinesia. This is the interventricular septal is akinetic. There is associated MR, mitral regurgitation is present, which is suggestive of acute heart failure. Dilated heart, left ventricle suggestive of dilated cardiomyopathy. Again, this is dilated heart failure. Coming to the management. Hello, beta. Hello. हाँ हाँ या लग बेटा या लग हाँ okay bye. So immediate management. First step in the management of the patient is respiratory failure. If the patient is has developed respiratory failure, it should be immediately elevated. Give a head up position, as I've already told you. You can start NIV, non-invasive ventilation, and CPAP ventilation is quite indicated, useful in case of dyspneic patient. Reposition the patient, start oxygen, I've already told you. Start nitro, if the BP is high, nitrates. Sublingual or intravenous nitrates are very effective, decreasing pulmonary venous pressure, relieving dyspnea. Rapid administration of intravenous nitrates in patients with severe pulmonary edema decrease the need for mechanical ventilation. Diuretics are invaluable if the patient has symptoms of acute pulmonary edema, acute heart failure. You should start IV furosemide 40 mg or 100 mg to 200 mg in a bolus dose, which will give you definitely reduce the pulmonary vascular congestion, as I have shown on the X-ray. Opiates, morphine is widely used because it reduces the anxiety, reduces the work of breathing. Beta blockers are useful if there is associated tachycardia. Ivabradine is used in class 2 or class 3 patients, and ejection fraction is 35% low. Surprisingly, very few patients develop low output syndrome, and in this low output, positive inotropes should be used, like dopamine, dobutamine, or noradrenaline. All of these agents cause increase in the cyclic AMP, intracellular calcium with the related increase in heart rate, myocardial consumption, and arrhythmias. They can again cause myocardial ischemia. They should be used judiciously. Monitoring of response to these therapies, blood pressure, monitoring peripheral perfusion, by pulse oximetry, respiratory status, urine output, mental status, end organ function, monitor urine output. Sometimes in cardiogenic shock, refractory heart failure, you should be able to use it. You can use intra-aortic balloon pumps, especially cardiogenic shock secondary to myocardial infarction. Ventricular assist devices can be used in patients with severe dilated cardiomyopathy with very low ejection fraction. ECMO also can be used for to improve oxygenation. Where are the slides? So I think this is the end of the lecture.